This is KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. This is attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give the Kapetan Brothers a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call the Kapetan Brothers. Kapetan Brothers Law Firm here in Fresno, California. We're serving the Central Valley, though, so 559-498-8000, 559-498-8000, Kapetan Brothers. We are the Valley's law firm. Hey, folks, in 1970, the Kapetan family, led by Colonel Kapetan and his lovely wife, Kay Kapetan, my mom and dad, we were living in Alexandria, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. Summer vacation had started and school was out of session. My dad decided to do a little camping at a campgrounds in Cool Font, West Virginia. I don't know if you know that one. Cool Font, West Virginia. Having spent much of his career in drab green tents during the Korean and Vietnam conflicts, my dad, the Colonel, as we called him, as my friends called him, the idea of camping and roughing it to him was renting a little A-frame cabin at Cool Font, not actually sleeping in tents. I remember there was a fishing hole there and lots of activities, including horseback riding. And to this day, I remember the little pony that I rode. It was a little auburn brown coat. I don't know what the cowboys call that, auburn brown coat. And the mane was as blonde as a Pilsner beer. His name was Miller, which even as a young kid, I always equated that horse, that blonde mane, to the color of a Miller beer. Well, ever the ready soldier, my dad knew that a proper cowboy should have the proper boots. So he went out and got me my first little, maybe my only pair of cowboy boots, quite honestly. I felt like a proper cowboy despite not having the hat and the shirt and everything to go along with it. I think he got me leather vest and everything like that, for a Christmas gift years later. But the proper boots, the proper jeans, the proper cowboy hat, it's a necessity to be a proper cowboy. And who knows that better than my next guest, right?
Right.
Right. He and his family have serviced the Central Valley, specifically the Clovis community, for all proper Western wear and all the needs for the past, get this, folks, 118 years, taking over the family business a handful of years ago. Sassano's Menswear has been the place to go for generations of real-life cowboys and city slickers alike. So I'd like to welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show from Sassano's Menswear in Clovis, fourth-generation owner Greg Sassano. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Mark.
Hey, listen, is it really 118 years now?
Except for 5 months in 1931.
Because?
August 31 to about February 32. Because of the times.
Because of the Depression.
Right. They just closed down and then restarted in 1932. And that's what my grandfather based his starting time was, from 1932.
Isn't that crazy?
So he didn't bridge all that time, but that's when it began, when my great-grandfather came over and started his little shoe shop. Your
great-grandfather, it's just this pure Americana story. It was 1890s, I guess?
Came through Ellis Island, yes.
Like my family did.
Right, yeah. Man.
Have you been back there?
No.
You've never been back?
I've been to New York, but just a short period of time, and it was a business thing, and I didn't have time to explore everything I wanted to.
Have you looked on the Ellis Island website to see if you could find your grandfather's name?
I have it. I have the book. I have the pages that it's got his name written in.
Yeah, we have it posted at our office, my grandfather's name coming through Ellis Island too.
Yeah.
A little bit later, 1905. I think he was born in 98. His name, your great-grandfather was Anello Sassano.
Yes.
Came over with his family or came over as a young boy by himself?
He came over as a young man.
Do you know how old he was?
I'd have to do math, and I'm not good at that. So.
Well, yeah. Well, you and me both. So
it's one of those things I should know, but I don't, to be honest.
Okay. So he comes over as a young man, and I'm talking, Marcella, back in those days, they would come over, like the parents would put them on a boat. They'd be 12 years old by themselves coming into New York, you know, maybe hooking up with an uncle or a friend, a family friend or something like that. And they would come. He starts working where? Downtown Fresno, I understand?
Yes.
At a department store down there.
Yes.
Do you remember the name of the department store? It was like... I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't recall it off the top of my head, but it was...
and what did he do?
He did basically shoe repair, I believe. Mm-hmm. I should have brought a picture that had the name because I'm an old man now, so the memory doesn't snap like
You're an old man. You're a couple years older than I am, for God's sake.
66.
Okay, so 6 years older than I am, so we're still young, right, Marcella? Yes, thank you. Marcella says yes. Okay, so he comes over. He's working shoe repair. By the way, we'll post that on our Facebook and our YouTube channel and everything. When you see the video of the show, we'll post the picture of your grandfather. If you could get that to Marcella, okay? Comes over. He's working as a shoe repairman, and at the young age of like 23 years old, he decides to branch out on his own in this country that he barely is speaking English, right? And he rents a little 10 by 10 shop somewhere in Clovis, right?
On what's now Clovis Avenue. Yeah, just a little, and it was on skids. I mean, you know, the Halloween store, they come in the next day after Halloween, and he's looking for a shop, and the kids are drugging out in the middle of the road, so it wasn't a permanent structure.
Oh, so it was just a structure on basically some wood skids, basically. Right. And he was doing shoe repair out of there.
He sold products and did shoe repair and made shoes.
And so what's this story about Halloween? What happened the day after Halloween? They
come back to work after Halloween and, you know, prank kids that drug his whole shop out in the middle of the street. They're dirt roads then, so it wasn't hard, but it kind of pissed great grandpa off a little bit. But
were you around when was he still alive?
No.
No, you never met the guy?
No, I did not.
What kind of guy? Did anybody tell you what kind of guy was he? Eccentric, hardworking, funny?
Hardworking, short, mustache, stocky little guy. But that when you came over, you had to have a job. You had to have a trade. In those days, you didn't just show up and like they hand you things. You had to have something to do, and you had to know somebody to get you.
That's the political comment here on the show. Basically, you didn't come over and they hand you things. Yeah, right. I think I know your political persuasion now. That's great. That's funny. No, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, my grandfather had fingers that looked like sausages because they just worked hard back in those days.
They didn't have vacations. They'd work every day. If that's
7 days a week.
Took to put, food on the table and, keep customers happy. That's what you did.
So he has this little 10 by 10 shop, I understand it is. He's doing shoe repairs and selling other little items and stuff like that. 1931 rolls around and there's the Great Depression and he closes the shop. Had he switched over to Sassano's menswear by that point, or was it still just a shoe repair shop?
No, they had a couple of different names. The Sassano brothers, and because my grandfather had a brother, and they did things together for a short time. Yeah. And the shop moved from, there's probably 5 different locations before my grandfather bought the property we're in now, and he built the first shop.
Yeah. There's this cute little story, too, because he met your great-grandmother somewhere in Clovis, right?
Let's see. Great-grandfather?
Or was it grandfather who met his wife basically hooking up for coffee during the
they met break time? That didn't last very long. It lasted long enough for one kid, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
My dad was the only child, so.
Oh, I thought it was like a long-term marriage and all that kind of stuff. They had the one kid, your father, and that was it.
And for years, I didn't know, because Grandma had remarried and I had Grandpa, and I didn't know that they were even a couple till I was, probably a teenager before I realized, that's who that started. I didn't know. I was just a dumb kid.
Oh, that's funny.
There's grandma, there's that grandpa, and then, the extra guy. So
the extra guy, and that was
you don't think about it. You're a kid. You're just, there's the players in the family,
but eventually from Manello, your grandfather, who was named what? Lawrence. Lawrence.
They called him Shorty.
They called him Shorty.
Yeah.
Takes over the Sassano menswear business.
He was taller than my great-grandfather, but they called him Shorty.
He was taller than your great-grandfather?
Yeah. Not much, but that was his nickname, and he loved it.
Did the generations keep increasing in millimeters or inches or whatever, basically?
Yeah, slight. My dad wasn't very tall. My dad was less.
Yeah, that would have been a perfect nickname for me. We're going to be right back after this with Greg Sassano from Sassano's Menswear. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. I'm going to pot this music down a little bit. Listen, I want you all to do me a favor and do yourself a favor, do a friend a favor. If you have a friend who's been in an auto accident, truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, have them do themselves a favor or help them out, please. You could call any attorney you want. I would appreciate if you call the Kapetan brothers, though. It is a very scary time. A person doesn't know what to do. They're injured. They're in pain. They may be on medication and they're just not thinking right. Help them out. Call the Kapetan brothers. We could find out if the accident is their fault or if it's someone else's fault. If it's someone else's fault, they may be entitled to compensation. And, you pay all these years for insurance, and so does another person who may have hit you. And the person says, well, I don't want to turn in the claim to my insurance company, or I don't want to sue the other person because I sort of know them or whatever. Listen, there's insurance that you've paid out your whole entire life. And you're just going to let that money go to waste if you don't make a claim for your injuries. And it's just the right thing to do. So call the Kapetan brothers at 559-498-8000. Kapetan brothers, the Valley's law firm, as we like to say, and to the dismay of all the other attorneys out there. We are back on with Greg Sassano from Sassano's Menswear out in Clovis. It is the oldest family business in Clovis, 118 years old. Started by Shorty 1, taken over by Greg's grandfather, Shorty 2. And then there was Shorty 3, your father, and then are you Shorty 4? No.
You can call me whatever.
Yeah, I won't call you that. All right, so Shorty 2 now takes over. And he takes over in, he's the one they actually called Shorty. They didn't call anybody else Shorty, right?
Yeah, my grandfather was Shorty, yeah.
So he takes over in about what? What year? Do you know Sassano's Menswear?
When they came back in 32.
So he's now going to be the son that's taking over the business, and he's going to operate the shop.
Great-grandfather and grandfather were together.
Oh, I see. And so he starts this shop. He does some. He starts expanding and selling more menswear and Levi's and products that you guys still sell today, right?
Workwear, hats, boots, Levi's, Stetsons.
Yeah, there weren't the chain stores. There was the Sears catalog, and that was about it. There was no online, obviously. Were you guys I know there was other stores that I had heard of throughout the years, Cuttings, Golden Horse, all that kind of stuff like that. Did you guys have sort of a corner on the market there? Was it? Were you servicing all of Clovis and the nearby community?
For the most part, and there was the Boot Barns and the Western Warehouse, and there was a Badashi's that was down the street.
Yeah, Badashi's, that's right. Yeah.
They were, then everybody had it. You could get your Wranglers at Walmart and Costco sometimes.
Were you selling? I know at one point you guys were actually selling sportswear too.
Well, when originally when there was only one high school, Clovis High, we were the only place you could get your gym clothes.
Yeah. You were like a Wilson's dealer, I think, right?
We were, yeah. You could get your golf clubs and your volleyball and.
Oh, so you guys were acting more like a department store, sports store, clothing store type thing?
The basic needs for the guys had to have their special needs, and then we had all the shorts and the shirts for the guys for their gym clothes.
Okay, so it just wasn't Western wear all those years.
No.
And it's funny because you guys started selling Levi's and Wranglers and all those things, and a lot of those same brands you still sell today.
Yes.
You guys have to have a huge working relationship with those companies to be selling them all these years.
We do. They've changed over the years, but they still treat us pretty fair.
How so?
Well, most of it, back in the day, I wasn't part of it back then, but every Stetson, every Levi, they all had a rep. At some point, there was probably, I hear there was like 7 different service guys that came out and sold their product to you. Like, Ben Davis. I hear Ben himself used to come see my grandfather.
Ben himself.
Yes, wearing his clothes. And the other guys are all dressed in suits and ties, and they'd give Ben a bad time. He's wearing what he sold, so.
Oh, I never even thought of that. That completely makes sense, yeah.
We still sell Ben Davis products.
But he had a personal relationship with Ben Davis himself.
That's the story I heard.
No kidding. Marcel, I don't know if you know Ben Davis clothing. I think your daughter wears some of that stuff. Yeah.
Been around for a long time.
Long time. But can you imagine the actual guy comes to your store wearing this stuff? I worked at a music store, and you probably missed that. Do you guys still have dealers coming out like that? They don't come out anymore, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. There's a few. The Wrangler rep still comes out on a regular basis 2 or 3 times a year. Just
checking on orders in your stock and all that kind of stuff?
Special orders, the filling for seasonal stuff. Yeah. And the Stetson Resistol guy comes out a couple times a year, and there's one that does leather products, and we probably have 5 that come out now, and sometimes as needed, sometimes a couple times a year.
Yeah.
Do inventory and, say, hey, this is what's going on, or...
I worked at a music store, and the same thing. You always had these regular guys, and some of them were around for ages. I mean, they were like old guys living out of, mobile, what do they call those things? Mobile homes and stuff like that. And they drive around in their Winnebago. They'd pull up, and they would be selling. They were true old school traveling salesmen who probably did most of the West, not even the West Coast, most of the West. And so you've had all these long-term relationships with these guys.
Well, my dad used to go golfing with them when they were in town, or they'd always go get coffee or something. They were like friends, family, like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You have, speaking about friends and family, you have this great worker that in I think you were in 5th grade or something like that.
That was my 5th birthday. August 3rd, 1963.
Tell us about Bob Parks.
Bob Parks. He was his dad and my grandfather were buddies, and his dad said, "Go see Shorty after school. He needs some help." And
for a summer job, basically.
Right, yeah. And so that's what Bob did, and then that's how it started. And Bob went to college, and Bob got married, had a couple daughters, and he just evolved, and he's kept us going all these years.
So this is like 63, from what I read. This guy, Bob Parks, starts at, Sassano's Menswear. And to this day, he's still working there.
61 years as of August 3rd.
Wow. Congratulations, Bob. I mean, but that kind of loyalty, he's a member of the family for you, right?
Right. Yes, he is.
And you have this great thing that you said that basically it's that type of guy that you don't find at a chain store and stuff. He's the type of guy that... Yeah. He has generations of people coming to see him, and he knows how to say, "Hello, how are you? What can I get you?" Which you don't hear these days. What are you looking for? How can I help you?
He might already know their size, and he's already got it on the counter when he sees them crossing the street.
I'll tell you, he's the type of guy, Marcelo, that I'll tell you what, probably says thank you when you buy something and you walk out the door, because none of these kids say that anymore. It drives me insane.
Right. That's true. Great guy.
So he's been working there 61 years. Mm-hmm. Wow. Has much changed in the store in that 61 years? Or in the 118 years that it's been around?
Oh, yeah. It's evolved a little bit. We've added a few brands, and we have a lot of hats now, and we have Pendleton and Old Guys Rule and laid back T-shirts and casual stuff.
So you guys do a little more modern stuff with T-shirts and stuff like that. It's not just strictly traditional wear,
right? It's kind of more blue collar stuff and casual. A lot of Red Wings and
I get it.
Tony Lamas and.
Everything
Justin
for your
Boots.
Clovis resident out there and everybody, yeah. Hey, we're on with Greg Sassano from Sassano's Menwear, a 118-year-old store, family-run business. We'll be right back after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. It's KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. You can check us out on the podcast, on the KMJ podcast at KMJnow.com, or you could get the KMJ app and go to the podcast section if you missed the show, or if you want to refer this show to one of your friends. If they want to know about Greg Sassano and Sassano's Menswear, or any one of the past shows, at KMJnow.com or on the KMJ Now app. Also, you could check out the Marc Kapetan Show. We actually video the shows, which is sort of strange for a radio show, but you could check out the video of the show on YouTube and on Facebook and on other streaming services. So please like, subscribe. What else is there, Marcella? What do the kids say, Marcella? That's it? Like and subscribe? Yeah. Okay. Like and subscribe. Go to it and share it. There you go. That's another one. Share it, Marcella. See? Marcella. You're becoming part of my generation now, Marcella, not your kids' generation. Like, subscribe, share. We are on with Greg Sassano from Sassano's Menswear. It is a 118-year-old store started by his great-grandfather, Anello Sassano. Then in 1932, right after the Depression, taken over by his grandfather, Shorty Lawrence Sassano. Then taken over, Greg, by your father, Les, right?
Right.
Yeah, Les Sassano. He had it for how many years?
He had it till he couldn't come down there anymore. His health took him out, and then I started coming in and helping Bob.
Yeah, I understand. How many years ago your dad had a stroke?
Yeah, that was in 2006, I believe, and he passed away in 2014.
Yeah, may his memory be eternal. Wow.
Right.
Grandmother, so Lawrence's wife lived to how old?
102.
Man, you got some good genes. Well, now, see what I said?
No pun intended.
No
right?
pun intended. Levi's, Wranglers, and good DNA genes. 102. Worked with grandfather down at the store or no?
Oh, no.
No. Uh-oh. Two Italians that couldn't work together?
Yeah, they divorced early on in life.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But you still stayed in contact?
Oh, yeah. They were just like, they were still family.
Yeah.
I didn't know the whole story, but yeah.
Oh, that's right. They were the ones who divorced early on. Okay, yeah. That's wild. Did Anello, he was married for, the great-grandfather was married for life or what?
He was married till, he died at a fairly young age. Again, I can't remember the age he was, but his wife lived, and I met her before she passed.
Yeah.
I think I was about 10 years old when she passed.
Old Italian lady?
Yes.
Do you know what part of Italy your family's from?
They say Lucca.
Lucca. Yeah.
Yes.
You ever been back?
No, but someday I would like to. It's on my list.
Listen, man, you're 66. I'm 60. Some days, should be now, right?
Well, some things got to play out. So.
Well, I get it, but there's no time like the present. I got to get at least 10
more years out of Bob, so we'll see how it goes.
Oh, poor Bob. Bob could. I think after 60-something years, Bob can manage the store for you, right?
He could.
Actually, so because of your dad's stroke, you actually had to go and take over the family business. It was nothing that you had ever planned on doing when you were a kid?
I knew we would keep it going, but I had a career that I had to follow through so I could feed my kids. And so
working for
PG&E.
For about 40-something years you did that,
34.
Right? 34 years.
Yes.
And you were in construction before that.
Right.
When you were a kid, you went to what high school? Clovis?
Clovis High.
Clovis High. Competition amongst you and the Cuttings and all those the Badashis and all that as to who had the better menswear?
I wasn't really part of that because I worked there as a teenager just because I guess I had to, Dad said, you got to do something, and so I did that for a few summers or something, whatever it was. And then, found a wife, got married, had kids, and had to have a job that paid and had the benefits and Bob was there working full time, and we had other employees there at the time, and I didn't want to bump somebody out. It was.
Do you remember how early you started there? Do you remember your first day basically at the store, or were you like one of these kids?
I was just a kid, and Grandpa was a gruff old guy, and he tried to be nice, but back then he'd be smoking his pipe or cigar in the store, and
right.
There'd be smoke around, and he'd say it killed the moths, but he
said it killed the moths.
Yeah,
I'll have to try that.
There's still burn marks in one of the cabinets that we have that goes back to the original store. He'd lay a cigar down, it would he'd leave it too long and it'd burn a little.
No kidding.
Yeah, there's still a bunch of
So
those.
wait a minute, you have one of the cabinets from the original store from the 1907 things or the 1932
There's a
thing?
picture at the store, and it's 1924, and that cabinet, it's in the cabinet that's still there today.
Oh, you got to take a picture of the cigar burn mark for us so we could post. I'm serious, so we could post on the website. Yeah, I got to come in. I know. Yeah. By the way, I wore my closest thing to a Western wear looking shirt today, and of course, Greg immediately says, "Oh, you have offset buttons on those shirt pocket buttons," and I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." So.
It's a retro style. It's a nice looking shirt.
That's funny. So, okay, so you've actually been, other than being a kid, you've been back at the store for how long now?
I did 10 years when I was still full-time at PG&E, working 4-10-hour days, and then Friday and Saturday were my days off, and I'd be at the store helping Bob.
Oh, wow.
So we're closed Sunday, Monday. Bob would be by himself Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
So I did that for 10 years until I had enough time I could get out of there because it was just run me into the ground. So.
Right. And do you work there now during the week?
I'm full-time. When I retired, I went full-time, so I'm 5 days a week.
And the question that I had was, you did 40 years for PG&E. I'm sure that's a great pension and everything like that, and it may have been a great job. But at some point, do you sit there and say, God, I love this men's store. It's part of my family. It just feels so natural that I wish I would have done this my whole life?
You know, I loved what I did at PG&E, and I'd met a lot of people and got opportunities and got a 401k, which I wouldn't have had at the store. So that's just small business owners know that. That's not.
You're talking to one. So yeah, I get it. No, I believe me. I wish I had that company paying my retirement. But it doesn't happen. Right. I have to build my own. Does it feel like, I mean, I know I'm getting a little psychological with you, but does it feel like coming home when you take over that store and you go and you take those keys and open up that store every day? Is it sitting there? Does it have that special meaning other than I'm going to a job? This is my legacy. This is my family.
It's definitely feel proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what about kids? You have a wife, right?
Yes.
How many kids you got?
I have 2 sons.
2 sons? What do they do?
The oldest one owns a powder coating company.
Yeah.
He was a mechanic for years, and then he had this opportunity, and him and my other son's wife bought the business, and they're doing well. And then my youngest boy is Air National Guard.
Oh, good for him, yeah.
So,
and both of them, yeah. And wife's name is?
Kim.
And the kids?
Nick and Jason.
Okay. Nick, Jason, anyone? Is there going to be a legacy of Sassano's after?
My youngest boy already took over. When COVID hit, he became active duty. He's still active duty. The governor needs Air National Guard as supplemental manpower. So, but he still comes in. He was full-time then, but now he comes in. If he's in town, he usually comes in once a week and catches up on books, and he does all my taxes and payroll. And
so he's got that military discipline. He knows how to do all that kind of stuff.
He has a business background, Fresno State, and he plans to keep it running. And then his son is going to keep it going too. So,
how old's his son?
16.
Really? And he's already dedicated his.
He's already been working for me a little bit. So,
no.
Yeah.
That is wild.
He has his driver's license. He can show up, and he's a good worker. Okay,
so you got a 16-year-old kid. You also have your son that are also part of this whole thing. Is there something that says, do they have plans, or is there something that you have to sort of figure out of how do we make this run? Because we have big chain stores, we got online stores, all that kind of stuff. Or do you think that this is something the community is always going to need and it's always going to be there?
I think we're good to go. I think people like small businesses, and Old Town Clovis is a great place to shop, and it's safe and clean, and good people down there.
It's the Clovis way of life.
It is.
It's weird because I say that to a what do you guys say, Clovetian? What is a person from Clovis called?
A lot of things. That's not one of them.
Yeah, no. What do you call a person from Clovis? I don't know, folks. You're gonna have to either go on our website or whatever, online or something, and tell us what
or something.
Clovis site. Yeah. my friends talk about the Clovis way of life and stuff like that. And even when I say it to you, you seriously look back and you say, yes, it is. It is the Clovis way of life. I have my buddy John Sotelo, who referred me to you so that I could do this whole interview. And he said, Mark, I've always told you, you shouldn't have bought that house over there. You should have bought it in Clovis. It's just, it's a way of life. It's safe. I think you even had a great quote about Clovis. I'll have to try to find it in the next segment. But you love doing business there, and you think that business fits perfectly in Clovis, huh?
Yes.
And you love the pizza at Luna's too, right?
Can't beat it.
You can't beat it. Can't beat the pizza at Clovis, at Luna's, and the Clovis way of life. We're going to be right back after this with Greg Sassano from Sassano's Menswear, which is also part of the Clovis way of life. 118 years out there in Clovis. We'll be right back after this. This is KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Also, blasting out 50,000 watts of radio power, radio frequency on AM and FM. 50,000 watts at 105.9 and 580 FM, AM. See, I screwed that all up, so that's okay. Yeah, don't forget, folks, we are radio free. You get us on the airwaves. If there's the apocalypse, you'll always hear us at 105.9 and 580 AM. So this is the Marc Kapetan Show. We are back on with Greg Sassano from Sassano's Menswear, which is 118 years old out of Clovis, oldest family business in Clovis, California, or as my mom would love to say, God's country. She used to call Porterville God's country. So, okay, Greg, you have a 16-year-old kid working there. By the way, that quote that you had said on we found out Clovisian. We say Clovisian or Clovisian is what you say for a person from Clovis. Greg Sassano states on doing business in Clovis, there's a lot of core families here that welcome the new generations and the Clovis way of life. It's simple. We feel safe. Take care of your neighbors and be happy. Simple, feel safe, take care of your neighbors and be happy. And that's the life you've led, and that's you've serviced Clovis, and Clovis has served you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is people go over there and they move there, and they're not from Clovis, but they go over there and they become Clovisians. I mean, they literally love that lifestyle. They love that Clovis way of life. So I think it's still around and it's still fresh. Clovis has had a lot of changes out there, huh? You guys have done a lot of redevelopment and revitalization.
Yes.
Your store's right in the heart of all that. You guys are located now where?
448 Pulaski, which is just north of 5th.
448 Pulaski. Go to Sassano's Menswear. Your grandfather, I think it was, started something really sort of special, and that's called the Sassano Blanket Award. Explain what the Sassano Blanket Award is.
That started in 1937, and back then I believe there was 3 sports, and the peers of the group would vote for the recipient of the award, and they actually got a blanket. We stitched up a blanket, had their name and the year and the sport they excelled in. And
yeah, it's for Clovis High athletes, right?
Yes, Clovis High School only.
And so in 36, your grandfather states that we're going to vote for who the most outstanding athlete at Clovis High in each one of the sports. And whoever wins gets this beautiful blanket that we've stitched that has what? The Clovis emblem on it, and maybe the sports emblem and all that kind of stuff. The
year and their name and the sport, yeah. And then it went on a bigger blanket that used to hang in the gym and then gymnasium, and then the individual got their own blanket that was personal.
And now you guys do something like 23 or something sports now? That there is,
last
or 40?
I heard there was 22 sports.
Yeah, 22 sports. And so since 1936, every year, you guys create these blankets for the most outstanding student.
At some point, and I don't know what year it was, but the school actually took it over, and we just do financial support.
Oh,
so
really?
We don't actually do the...
You don't stitch the blanket anymore, but it's still your guys' award. And
we used to take it down to a lady, and she made all the... hand-stitched everything,
right.
I can remember that as a kid.
So basically, you guys still sponsor this award.
Yes.
And they said it's really like a coveted thing. Like these kids really want to win this blanket, and the parents really are proud of them because they've won the Sassano blanket.
It still has a pretty good meaning. Yes.
Well, and if you think about it, it's almost 100 years old. It's 90 years old now, right? Or close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did Bob Parks did you ever win it?
No, I was not that great at sports.
Really?
I used to wrestle in, intermediate school, 7th grade, and then I had a growth spurt, and I was just a easy takedown. I was too tall and lanky, and I sucked.
You did it for the fun of it.
Yeah. I played baseball for a while, but
yeah,
I wasn't that great at that either. So
you went in the Navy also? Was it you that went into the Navy?
My dad was Navy.
Your dad was in the Navy, yes. And now your son is basically a military guy and stuff like
yes.
that. So now you have your grandson, 16-year-old kid. Is he saying, "Hey, Dad, or Grandpa, we need to modernize. We need to go online. We need to do all this kind of stuff," or is he basically keeping it traditional, stating, "Yeah, we've been doing it this way for 118 years. I think we could do it this way for a little longer"?
My son has done a lot of changes, and we keep up with things. The grandson, he's got ideas too, but he's a good hard worker. If he comes in to help me, he does what I ask him to do, but sometimes he kind of goes, I could do it like this, and I let him have his say so, and sometimes we go with his ideas. So.
Do you think you could have worked with Dad and Grandpa way back in the day for all those years, or was it necessary for you to go? I mean, there's a bunch of Italians in one small store.
No, I wouldn't have lasted. Grandpa would have probably knocked me on the ground. And
was he a tough guy?
I didn't mess with him. He was a neat guy. I had a lot of respect for him. He was a drummer. They played in the bands. And
he was?
Yeah. Way back.
Really?
I never got in to see him. I was
like
too
what
young
kind of
when he played.
Like what kind of music?
I think like jazz stuff, and there was local places that him and his buddies would go, and I'm sure I don't want to know all of the stories, but
oh yeah,
I
you
hear
do.
There's some good
ones.
ones.
Yeah, you do. He was a drummer playing jazz stuff.
Yeah.
God, I wonder if he knew my uncle. My uncle was, I think it was Johnny Fotis. I don't think it was Harry. It was either Harry or Johnny who was the musician. And they had an Italian side of the family. The DeMeras was their family. And he was in jazz groups with Jimmy Dorsey and Harry James and all these famous jazz guys. They would all come through playing and stuff like that. Oh, I didn't know that. Any musical talent for you?
Zero
musical talent?
And Grandpa was a great Giants fan. They would go all over the place. Him and his buddies would go to the Giants games all over everywhere. And they had a ritual when they go to the San Francisco. They had places they stop. They already had their seats ready for them. They had their few drinks, had something to eat, and then the way back they had another.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. But
was he like hitting up Columbus Street where all the Italian restaurants were and all that kind of stuff?
I didn't get to run around with Grandpa. He went with let's see, who was the Doc Pendergrass and Larry Grossi, or his dad's Lori Grossi.
Yeah, they just used to hang out.
The doctor, and then the other guy had the market down there, and those three were like three musketeers. When they went out, just get out of the way because it was time to have a good old time.
Well, it sounds like you had a good old time because at one point they made him the grand marshal of the basically the Clovis Parade, right?
Yes.
Yeah, for Big Hat Days and the rodeo and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, and then my dad got that honor again too several years ago. So
yeah, you ever been a grand marshal or anything like that, or do you do the Clovis rodeo every year?
Oh yeah. Is
that big business for you right around that time?
It's decent. It's not crazy busy, but it's still.
But those families, they all come in and they get the matching hats and the matching outfits and all that kind of stuff.
They used to have a competition where the best dressed family would get an award. I still have some.
Oh really? Wow.
Families that dressed up.
Well, if you are going to the Clovis Rodeo this next year, or any time, and you want Western wear or any type of wear, go to Sassano's Menswear in Clovis, 118 years old, family business, and this is the latest in a string of generations, and there's a couple more generations coming up. Greg Sassano from Sassano's Menswear, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
We will see you next week on the Marc Kapetan Show. Thanks to my lovely producer, Marcella Solorio Taylor. This is KMJ.